Hi, my name is Enrique Gomez. I'm with Commercial Mortgage Depot. I'm here with Ken Rose. Ken Rose is an attorney located in Passaic, New Jersey. He's been an attorney for over 40 years, since 1982. He practices all types of laws. Today, we're going to talk about the cannabis laws and what's happening in the cannabis business. This is our second video discussing this, and we want to try to keep everybody informed and up to date as the new regulations come along.
This is our continuing dialogue on the state of the law in New Jersey and this exciting new industry, cannabis, and what's happening in our backyard. So people that are in this industry were waiting for the regulations. On August 19th, 4 weeks ago, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission came out with the regulatory requirements and rules of the road, so to speak, and what will be the emphasis in New Jersey. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I will be getting into, is the fact that what's paramount in New Jersey is social equity businesses. And those are people who have lived in economically disadvantaged areas of the state, or those who have had past convictions for cannabis offenses, and the state is allowing these people to get involved in the industry. Secondly, one of the big policy determinations was for diversity and diversely owned businesses. And these are clearly minority owned, women owned, or disabled veteran owned businesses. And they will be certified as such by New Jersey and by the Regulatory Commission in one of those categories. And thirdly, one of the social requirements that the state is looking for is people to open businesses in what is called impact zones. Impact zones are like the economically known enterprise zones or the urban enterprise zone programs. So people that are located in an impact zone or employee residents of impact zones, as in Passaic, like I'm in the city of Passaic, and Passaic is an enterprise zone, and will be determined to be an impact zone, that these are municipalities that have large populations, high unemployment rates, and had a history of crime or marijuana situations with marijuana arrests. So between these types of businesses, social equity, diversity owned, and impact zone businesses, the state of New Jersey is giving these types of business classes priority in the licensing process so that those people in those categories have the opportunity to have their applications actually prioritized, put to the front before other mainstream or non-diverse or non-social equity or non-impact zone licensed applicants, regardless of when the social equity, diversity, or impact zone applicant applies. So the point of this is to simply say that New Jersey, in its wisdom, is thinking they want to try to correct a wrong. And what they're doing is prioritizing these types of licenses. People can enter into a micro business license. What is a micro business license?
I was just going to ask you that.
Enrique, there's 6 classes of licenses, but a micro business could be in any one of those 6 license types. So the concept of the micro business license is essentially to give a piece of the economic cannabis pie, if you will, to those that are smaller capitalized, not as large companies, not those large, well-capitalized cannabis companies from out of state. And if you recall from our last conversation, we talked about multi-state operators, and many multi-state operators are already in the state of New Jersey operating in the medical space. The medical cannabis space, as we discussed last time in New Jersey, is not giving out any more medical licenses. So the ones that are already in the medical space, many of them are multi-state operators, and I'm not going to mention any names right now, but the cognoscenti, the knowledgeable people in the cannabis industry know who those people are.
So now with those people, right, are they going to convert from medical to everything, and they're just going to be open for the public.
Yes, we're gonna. Yes, they're rushing to get recreational licenses too. But we're going to talk about that probably in a different webinar about converting from medical to recreational.
So it's not an automatic thing.
Right. No, not at all. And that's an excellent question. And to convert the medical, and many of them, the multi-state operators that are already in medical, for example, Rise Dispensary is a multi-state operator, and they already have 3 locations in New Jersey, and they're doing very good work. So to continue to show the state of New Jersey that they're doing very good work, they're going to have to prove that their demand and supply chain is adequate and efficient enough to allow them to expand into recreational. Now, again, this allows people with strong connections in New Jersey, people that are connected with New Jersey in a significant way, allow them also to compete with these large multi-state businesses. And I think it was correctly done by the state, allowing New Jersey residents to start micro businesses, despite the fact that many of these larger cannabis operators are already in the state of New Jersey. So how do we qualify? How do we qualify as a micro business? What do we do? Well, all the owners of the business, all the owners must be current New Jersey residents. All the owners, they must have resided in New Jersey for at least 2 consecutive years. So you see already the emphasis for the micro business license. These are people with strong connections to the state of New Jersey. Moreover, at least 51%, requirement number 2, at least 51% of the owners, directors, officers, and employees, over half of all people associated with the micro business, must be residents of the municipality where the business will be located. Requirement number 3 is that the micro business can have no more than 10 employees. And the reason for that is because the state is giving very significant discounts in the licensing fees themselves to the micro business. Suffice it to say now that as a micro business, you will be saved a tremendous amount of money on licensing fees. So one of those reasons is you're limiting the scope of the total business to 10 employees. Further, number 4, the micro business operating space can be no more than 2,500 square feet. And in the case of a cultivator, which is a form of a license, and you and I will be talking about licenses in a moment, operating space itself cannot be more than 2,500 square feet, and it cannot have a height, an operating height of no more than 24 feet. So for those growers of the plants, and those out there that are listening have an idea of what they want to do in the space, in this exciting new industry, you cannot have more than 2,500 square feet or a canopy of more than 24 feet and be a cultivator in the state of New Jersey with a microprocessing license. Furthermore, a final limitation is the monthly volume of cannabis that the business can be involved in. And that may vary somewhat depending on the type of license being applied for. So in a cultivator situation, it may be 1,000 cannabis plants per month, or it may be a limitation of 1,000 pounds of usable cannabis per month, or it may be other cannabis products or resins or other similar restrictions. These are not insignificant restrictions, but the fact is the law, as the requirements have just been promulgated in the last month, at least 25%, 1/4 of all New Jersey cannabis licenses will be granted solely to micro businesses, and at least 10% of each class of licenses must go to a micro business. So you can understand now with the social equity, diversity, and impact zone development requirement in concert with the micro business licensing scheme, you see what the state of New Jersey is attempting to accomplish. They're trying to take care of the opportunity for local residents, local being defined as a resident of that municipality, and it's going to be in an area that makes the most dramatic impact from the wrongs that were caused by the harm of cannabis penalization in the past. So in addition, this legislation provides that no more than 37 cannabis cultivator licenses will be issued during the first 2 years after enactment. But even that cap on cultivation does not apply to micro businesses. So I can envision 37 micro businesses having cultivation licenses in the state, and I can envision 37 regular cultivation licenses existing in the state. And
What's the difference between that and a retail store? The
well,
cultivation
a retail store is a form of a license. So I think that's a very good segue into the topic of licenses. So what kinds of licenses are allowed in the state of New Jersey? And remember, a micro business can have any one or all of these following 6 licenses. First of
but every
all,
license is different. Okay.
yes. So first of all, you can have a cultivation license, which is considered class 1 license. You're a cultivator. It's a cannabis cultivation license. So that is class 1 license in the state of New Jersey, cultivation. And that is simply to grow recreational use cannabis. You have to be licensed by the state, and you also must be allowed, I have 2 fingers up, to do that in the municipality that you want to do it in.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear me say this 6 times today. And I'm going to use
now, once you grow it, you can sell it to any retail store in the state of New Jersey?
Once you grow it, you can sell it. That's correct. You
To
can
the
sell
retail
it.
stores, because you can't sell it. You're not allowed to sell it to individuals. You got to sell it to a store.
You have to sell it to a
Right.
wholesaler or to a store. That is
A
correct.
retailer. Yeah.
Let's go through the licenses, and
Okay.
maybe a lot of that will explain itself. Number 2 is the manufacturing license. And that's essentially indoors growing, producing recreational use cannabis. That's essentially doing it in an industrial space, a warehouse, an indoor grow facility, maybe a vault facility, maybe some sort of indoor growing space. And that essentially would be the class 2 license. Manufacturers' licensing fees will be based on the amount of square footage they have. Every state has a different scheme. For example, in Nevada, there's a class of consumption licenses, lounge licenses. There's all kinds of licenses in this new world order of cannabis. So class 3 in New Jersey is the wholesaler cannabis license. And a wholesaler can store cannabis, sell, or otherwise transfer recreational use cannabis items between cannabis cultivators, wholesalers, or retailers. So that's a true wholesaler. And that's a class 3 license. Class 4 is cannabis distributor license. What is a distributor? Well, a distributor transports cannabis in bulk between a cultivator, which is a grower, a manufacturer, that's essentially an indoor grower, or to the end user, the consumer who buys it from the retailer. So the distributor can distribute it amongst the cultivators, manufacturers, and retailers within the state of New Jersey. That is a distributor class 4 license. Now we get to class 5 in New Jersey, which is the essential retail experience. The retail experience is the consumer goes into a storefront in any main street in New Jersey, and essentially the cannabis retailer who must buy his cannabis from a licensed cultivator in New Jersey. Again, that's an outdoor grower or grower, a manufacturer, which is, again, is an indoor grower, or a wholesaler. The retailer, the store, must sell those items to a consumer in that retail location. Now, as to this license, specifically, the town that I'm speaking to you from in Passaic, New Jersey, has made a determination as a municipality that it does not want storefronts in Passaic for cannabis. What happened in the state of New Jersey, each municipality had until August 21st to decide whether to allow or deny adult use cannabis in their towns. So each town, despite the new state law, each town has the right to say, we don't want any form of cannabis. We want only certain types of licenses of cannabis or some variation in between. So before August 21st, 2021, the town that I'm speaking to you from, Passaic, in April, decided that they do want cultivators, class 1 license. They do want class 2 manufacturers. They do want class 3 wholesalers, and they do want class 4 distributors. But as to retail shops and the retail consumer experience, the town made a determination that they do not want that specific license in Passaic, New Jersey. So for a resident of Passaic to buy recreational use cannabis, that resident of Passaic will have to go outside of Passaic to a town that does allow retail cannabis sales, which is again the class 5 license. Now, you and I were discussing this before the video, and we both remarked with each other that 80%, the technical number is 79% of municipalities have opted out of any form of licenses. 79% of the towns in New Jersey have said, we don't want any kind of cannabis activity in our backyard, in our towns. So 80% of the residents in New Jersey will not be able to cultivate, manufacture, wholesale, distribute in their own backyards. They will have to go to the 20% of municipalities that allow that. So one of the things and one of the key takeaways of today's webinar, one of the takeaways is that you must know the requirements of your municipality. You must have a understanding of the specific rules and requirements of your local municipality. So just as in a real estate situation where you have to often get state permission on a topic and local, your local municipality permission on a topic, that is essentially the same regulatory scheme that we have in the state of New Jersey. So as an example, again, about Passaic, that's where I'm speaking to you from, I have to get permission, the applicant would have to get permission in Passaic for whatever the applicant's desire is to do in the class of licenses that Passaic, the city of Passaic, is allowing. And that same analysis would apply to every other municipality. The 21% that have allowed some form of licensing in New Jersey, that analysis applies in every same municipality of those that have allowed cannabis in their backyards. So each town, again, had a deadline to decide whether they would allow or deny adult use. Now, if they specifically did not deny it, the CRC is assuming that they'll allow it. But I would not count on anything in a municipality without knowing the specific rules of the game in each and every municipality.
We have to go through every single law.
You'd have to go, right. You'd have to, if you want to open up a business in Clifton, New Jersey, you'll have to review their ordinance. If they don't have an ordinance, you'll have to make sure you have an understanding with the municipality as to what your intentions are, what your thought processes are, what uses you want to make of the real estate space in this industry. And there's a lot of work that has to be done to make sure that you're zoned properly, you've got the proper noise covered. Security is a very big issue in this industry, and each municipality is going to want to see your blueprint for how you're going to address all these issues. Odor is a very big factor in this industry. Many of the municipalities specifically that did not allow this did so because of the vapors, the odors, and the other smells that may arise. Many people do not like the smell from the cannabis plant. And so the watchword is, whatever your intentions are, you must understand that you can't dive into this without understanding not just the state's requirements, but also the municipality's requirements. And if you can't satisfy both the state and your local municipality, you will not be allowed entry into this industry, despite the fact that you are a micro business and you have a connection with that municipality. So I may want to open up, as an example, I may want to open micro business in Passaic as a retail store. Now, yes, I can open up, yes, I can do a micro business, but Passaic is not allowing a Class 5 cannabis retail license. So they're going to wish me well, and they may say to me, oh, you can manufacture in Passaic, because that's really what the city of Passaic is looking to emphasize, because manufacturing entails lots of employment. And that's essentially the economic engine in this industry that the city of Passaic is seeking to have. The city is looking for a large economic engine, and manufacturing would typically allow a greater amount of employment. So in the city's infinite wisdom, that is how they're dealing with this new exciting industry. What I'd like to talk about in our next webinar is exactly the social equity perspective of each license holder and the specific licensing fees that would be due on these specific licenses. The final license that is allowed in New Jersey, the sixth and last license, is called a delivery license. And just like Uber or Lyft or DoorDash, essentially it would be the same thing. Now, some towns are not allowing delivery licenses. However, they cannot stop a delivery in their town. So going back to Passaic is our unique example for today. Passaic is not allowing a delivery license. That doesn't mean you cannot deliver in Passaic, but the business cannot operate out of Passaic. So I don't know right at this moment what the city of Clifton is allowing as to a delivery license, but Clifton also must allow a delivery in Clifton. So, but let's say Clifton does allow a delivery license. So you can have your place of a business, like if you have a fleet of cars, you can have your cannabis fleet of cars parked in Clifton as your hub, as your base, and you can deliver it into Passaic. Passaic will not allow a Class 6 license in Passaic, but they cannot stop deliveries that come from another town because they're going to deliver into Passaic. That is, the state cannabis scheme has said to Passaic, you don't have to allow the business to be based in Passaic, but the deliveries have to be allowed statewide in your part of the state of New Jersey. So this is a very intricate licensing scheme. The more you understand it, the more you understand what the benefits are and what the thought process was and how each and every license is going to go forward. So the takeaway from today is understanding the scheme. We understand there's a state involvement. And after today, we understand there's an incredible, significant second, as large component, local, municipal, city involvement as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And what we're going to do is our next event, we'll talk about the different cities, what their regulations are, and so on. And then I guess we're going to be talking also about licensing for foods, how that works, the candy and the chocolates and everything else. All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.